Greetings everyone, Tomb of the Scarab here, and I'm bringing you another video today, but it's going to be all about communication with the spirits and giving some examples of how they communicate. But the first thing that I want to go into in this video is understanding yourself before getting into any of this shit. You need to understand how you express yourself when it comes to feeling certain emotions. Because when you understand these parts of yourself, you will understand when there's a spirit that is influencing how you're feeling and those emotional states. Because spirits they constantly emit energy. They constantly will emit emotion too. And the reason why those of us that are experiencing this say this, we say this to keep you safe. We say this so you don't lose yourself. We say this so you don't spiral into freaking lunacy, like so many on the Western path do. Know yourself. Know your shadow. Know your emotional states. Know how you express yourself to know how the spirits express themselves. What comes with understanding emotion of a spirit? What comes with it? What comes with understanding them is a deeper connection to them, more context into what exactly they're trying to say, and what I like to call the perfect possession. The perfect possession is something that I like to say, and that is the means of the spirit entering into you, but you're not fully possessed by them. You're just actually you're able to imitate how they act. You start to actually naturally just act like them. You're still yourself, but you understand. This is why it's the perfect possession. You still understand who you are. You don't lose yourself fully. But they're in you and they're delivering their messages. They'll change your voice. They can, change your demeanor. They will change your overall body language. Sometimes in an actual natural born medium, their facial features will start to change. Their eyes change color. All of these different manifestations and happenings happen in these kind of sessions because of the level of understanding that medium has of the spirit world. That is why there are certain mediums that you'll go to who have such a profound means of communicating with the dead. It's because they understand themselves and they remove themselves from the equation by knowing themselves. I know that when I'm angry, I react in this way, right? I know that when I'm angry, I don't drink. So if there's a energy around me where I'm feeling like I'm gonna fucking drink or I want to drink, then I know for a fact that that's not my energy. You see what I mean? That is likely the energy of a spirit that is around you, that when they're angry and if they're in emotion and if they're in a state of emotion, that which is driving them into anger and drinking in anger, then you know that it's theirs and not yours. But you also will know how to approach them as a result of bringing them forward to communicate, because that plays a huge part in this practice. When you can understand how they feel, you can understand how to approach them. It's just like if you're communicating with someone who is in the living realm. It's very similar. You gauge their emotional state, you gauge where they are, you can adjust your mindset to be exactly that. Or you can be extremely clear and let that shit naturally happen. Both of those ways work perfectly fine. When you're in more of a natural state, as I said, they'll be able to come in and they will be able to express themselves through you. Those are the more profound readings and sessions where the spirit comes forward and their personality is showing and they're talking about how they like to cook, or what their grandkids are like, and they're watching their grandkids grow up and they know things about their grandkids that no one else knows. How will you know that if you're not following these specific, how will you know that if you're not following the guidelines to actually understand mediumship? How will you know that if you're not actually practicing the means of a healthy diet? How will you know that if you're not actually understanding of what energy is yours and what energy isn't? Don't lose yourself in this shit. It's too easy to lose yourself in this. But anyway, I want to continue. Now, say, you're feeling pain in your body all of a sudden, and, you enter an area and you just feel this extremely excruciating pain in your body. Maybe it's in your ribs or, in your stomach or wherever, right? And in this area, someone actually died of a stabbing. They got stabbed to death. You're feeling this pain, and you start to feel all of this just fear. You start feeling this crippling amount of fear, and you feel like you're paralyzed. You can't do anything. You know what you're experiencing at that very time? You're experiencing the death of that spirit. Like I said, if you don't understand or you don't pay attention or you don't care for the emotions, this is where you will start to lose yourself. This is where that communication, that link and that doorway for communication can be strengthened and opened, or just completely shut. And in many times when you neglect this shit, it becomes permanent because you aren't grateful of what it is that you have the capacity to fucking do. Now, experiencing death, because communications happen from spirits in that way too. They'll tell you how they died sometimes because they don't know how to express themselves any more than that, or they don't know how to deliver a message in a way to help the person who is coming in to get information from you. They don't really know how to communicate it in any other way to get them to be validated or have confirmation as to whether or not this is their relative, right? Usually, there will be spirits that come forward and they immediately are just like, tell them about how I died. And I'll feel how they died. If they died of sickness, I'll start feeling like I'm tasting bile. If they died of, if they died of a gunshot wound, I'm going to feel the gunshot wound. If they died of like heart failure or lung failure or their lungs collapsing or any of that or stroke, it doesn't matter. I will feel that shit. I feel it. It is important. This is one of the most important things on this path, is that comes when you're in actual alignment with the spirits that you say you're working with. That is another reason why I don't play both sides in this shit. That's another reason why I don't go back and forth. Because you start to learn about your gifts and you learn your gifts to mastery. That emotion is one of the most important things and one of the most important lessons that you will ever learn. Let's talk about the diet a little bit of people who walk the path of death and those who are just natural mediums. We don't tend to eat a lot of things that are heavy when we're in contact with spirits, and the reason why is we don't want those spirits to anchor themselves to what we're digesting. When you become possessed and you're heavy, it's going to make it hard for the spirit to leave your body. But there are a few of you that didn't know that. It's going to make it difficult for them to leave. Their energies are going to be stuck within you. And if that energy, especially if that energy isn't in resonance with you, it's going to have pretty bad backlash. And this is where oftentimes a lot of the spirit attachment ends up happening. And people are fucking like plagued by spirits that they were literally just communicating with that were kind to them. But they didn't understand that they need to be in the actual state that is close as possible to death, which usually is fasting when it comes to necromantic practice or when it comes to mediumship. The dead will also communicate in means of using animals. I've noticed them, using animals sometimes. The video that I have on here of Reese when she was giving her review, when I was reading her dad, her father, he came through in such a powerful way. And then he started using animals to communicate. Started giving out information in regards to animals that his daughter was connected to, that her mother was connected to, that other people that were around them or close to them were strongly connected to, that were their favorite. For example, I started speaking about ducks because her dad asked me to tell her about ducks. And when I started speaking about ducks, that opened up a whole nother dialogue of communication between her and I and him. And then that also opened up other messages that were coming forward, because the complete state of emotion that my client was in literally just changed from being, say if she was more apprehensive or she was more skeptical. When there's confirmations and things like that, we're not fishing for confirmation, we're just delivering the messages, especially if the spirit is asking me to ask this person certain things because they have a way that they're wanting to deliver what they're trying to say. So her father, he was communicating with me by the means of just literally using all animals to communicate. And then through these animals, those animals had specific messages for her and her mother and her sister and other family that was around them. Then, right, as I continued on with communication with him, then I got into actually feeling how he passed. I started feeling into his shortness of breath, the symptoms, the body pain, all of it, and how it was just so sudden and it just didn't go anywhere and didn't stop. And then all of a sudden I just felt this lightness, like I was cold, and then it was just over with. That was me experiencing his death. That person that I was in contact with, which was her father, passed during quarantine. So it was something that was extremely profound. But I wouldn't have felt that if I didn't pay attention to what my guides were trying to teach me. If I didn't pay attention to myself and understanding myself. If I didn't pay attention to my health even, because I could have easily mistaken that as my actual health and literally started to fucking think that I was dying. And with me thinking that I'm dying, you literally can go into a state of just fucking psychosis just like that. You have to understand yourself on this path. You have to understand yourself. And the spirits will deliver messages in a variety of different ways. Some will come full-fledged and give you straight up visions of what it was like when they were alive. And they'll give you visions of you from their perspective, you looking through their eyes and interacting with your client. And those are the times in which you're giving information that no one else knows about except for that person, right? You end up going into a core memory of this person that literally this spirit can help you to understand what emotion this person is feeling or why they have this specific type of, perspective towards a certain subject or an emotion, or why they react to certain types of trauma in a certain way, what traumas they may have, what exactly did they do to develop a certain pattern that which made them cope in this way. You see what I mean? All of this emotion, all of these energies open up your doorways to deeper forms of communication. They open up those doorways to understanding the living and the dead on a deeper level. When you work with understanding the expression of emotions, and you work with understanding yourself, you work with understanding them more when you know yourself more, you get to the point where you master these things. And then this is when you can actually start to get information from them for yourself. Say you're working with, say you have a person that you're communicating with, you've never met them. It's not even a client's relative, right? Or it's not even a person that you know, it's not even their relative. And you're communicating with this spirit. You understand their emotion. You understand how to actually communicate with them. You understand how to build a rapport with them. You will get an understanding of how to actually gather the information from them that and they might have specialized in when they were alive. They can provide you with information of things like this. You can befriend spirits in this way. You see what I mean? Don't neglect your empathy. Don't neglect your ability to feel. It's not a fucking weakness to feel. Don't listen to the bullshit that's out there. It's not a weakness to feel. It is not a weakness to feel. It is a weakness, however, to not know yourself. It is a weakness to cookie cut and fucking do shortcuts and fucking cut corners. We don't do that shit around here. Do your due diligence and go hard in this shit by actually studying, doing what you need to do, and taking all the time that you fucking need to get to know who you are as a practitioner and who you are as a person. Understand your traumas, understand your health, to understand the spirit world, to understand any demon, to understand anyone that you might be coming in contact with that comes from the other realms aside from this one that we are in the living realm.